thing as well is, now that we're into picks and bans at last, just really quick then, is the fact that we are in a very volatile kind of meta.
5.5.
Right? 5.5 changed a lot of things, a lot of new items, jungles, in the lane, Cassiopeia, Luden's Echo is a ridiculous item on her. And really the teams we've seen across regions that have been able to adapt faster or maybe have like a cheese pick, or got mid. Basically if you are able to get a hold of the patch very quickly, you really do have a leg up, which is why I really like this adaptation from IGL to ban Zac out.
Very fast.
He is one of those ridiculous junglers in the new patch. So, like you said, the pick and ban phase from IGL is one of the things that they've really been working on, looking sharper. And so far, just by this act alone, it shows that, hey, they're recognizing the power of the 5.5 patch. They don't want that champion available to ASUS Fate.
Yeah, of course, the Irelia being taken away by ASUS Fate from LY4. I have to be a bit concerned here because LY4 has not played that recently, and his best performances has always been on those AP team fighting top laners. So you think Cannon, you think Lulu, you think Rumble. At least they banned 2 of the 3 out, but once again, that Cannon's still available to LY4 if he wants to play it. The last ban for Insidious Gaming Legends here. What would they focus out? Of course, it is the Hecarim for Slay, and a lot of focus on the tanks from Insidious Gaming Legends, or top laners, excuse me, for Insidious Gaming Legends, whereas top lane bans as well for ASUS Fate, so both teams drawing parallels here.
Yeah, LY4 has been that player on the side of IGL where he's quite stable. I have seen a few games, we have cast a few games where he does get taken down early, and then there's a little bit of tilt, but he's one of those guys where
honestly Insidious Gaming Legends fixed that really well. The tilting has not been present at all. I'm so impressed.
In group stage 2, that's been one of their another kind of in-game improvements. But I wanted to mention as well, like, if he does get going, this guy can definitely hard carry for the team. We've seen it time and time again. So definitely a lot of respect coming in from ASUS Fate. Taking away the Rek'Sai, that is indeed a good pick for themselves. Ooh, and this Graves, we were talking about this earlier before. I believe you have some thoughts on where exactly this fits in for IGL.
In the previous game where they lost to Saigon Fantastic 5, I want to say the Saigon teams cracked the pick and ban phase of Insidious Gaming Legends by quite a bit by banning out that Graves. We've seen that a lot in 5.5 at least. You take out Graves, you take out Lucian, then that mid-game Infinity Edge power spike just disappears because you have to default to Corki or Kalista, who have to start scaling up a bit more, I guess. But now that Insidious Gaming Legends have picked up their comfort champions in the form of Graves Morgana, this bot lane is just sold. The jungler from IGL doesn't have to come down. They'll probably find a couple of solo kills on their own.
Rapier and Valkyrie have been, very vocal about saying, we don't need the jungler's help. Our 2v2 is solid. They really don't need any kind of focus. And I mean, Morgana and Graves, they can push all day. They have the ability to turn even 2v3s. We can get into the intricacies of it once we get into game itself, but definitely a very strong pickup for these two. And I do like the fact that, again, while let's not read all too much into it, the Morgana pick into Rek'Sai is actually very strong, right? Because late game you can black shoot your AD carry, makes that flash unborrow, just very impotent on the side of Rek'Sai.
And the thing is, the tunnel is so predictable in the pathing, so you can actually just throw a Dark Binding onto the way he's coming in from and just stop him right there. And Listener picking up the Lucian as the EOCS casters like to call it Graves Light. The same function, he does pretty much what Graves does, but kind of in a weaker state. Of course, the Scion rather popular now in 5.5, scaling it with health very well.
Yeah. Scion has been, he's been on the nerf buff book multiple times. Any of those of you who have been keeping up with 5.6 will see once again Scion shows up. So that will be a tuning down of his power, but currently in 5.5, very, very strong. Very, very interested to see what exactly LY4 plays against him in the top lane. As we've mentioned, LY4 really does prefer to play more of that carry style top lane. Maokai and just full tanks. He has proficiency on them, but he doesn't shine all too much. So would it be... It could be Nidalee jungle, right? And Rune in the mid lane with his LeBlanc. I don't think we'll see LY4 top with Nidalee.
Yeah, probably not. And I think Nidalee is still a pretty good jungler in this patch, honestly. At least top 3 in terms of just overall power and early game pressure. The issue is that she poses a very niche threat to the enemy team. You have to land those spears for the damage, and it's only good in a sieging situation if you get a very scrappy team fight going down. Insidious Gaming Legends may not come ahead with that Nidalee, but Rune on this LeBlanc, I'm happy to see this pickup for the Singaporean side. He's very proficient on that champion, very good at finding flanks, and Canon Nami here for ASUS Fate, denying that pick away from LF4, yes, but also picking it up for Slay for all intents and purposes, the rather new top laner. He was the AD carry before for ASUS Fate, but switching over to top, replacing Lolita as well as Shady.
Yeah. This is quite interesting. Mostly due to the fact that if you look with the Nidalee pick, more so than the LeBlanc pick, IGL actually are going to have a bit of trouble in the team fight phase if you just run at them. Morgana, yes, has Soul Shackles, but that on its own isn't going to be enough. So the Kennen pick, actually quite clever on the side of ASUS Fate. I mean, it looks like a bit of a mismatch composition coming out from ASUS Fate, like quite messy.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things mixed in there. But if, you know, LY4 was thinking to take that Kennen to kind of add to the fact, or, you know, counter the fact of if you rush into me, it's slicing Maelstrom, that option isn't available to them anymore.
I think what's interesting is that we haven't seen Sejuani at all in this pick and ban phase.
Yeah.
Despite it being available in multiple regions, it's been quite a popular pick for her ability to disengage slash start great fights for her team. I think that we see a shift in priority here, going for that Morgana top and Braum support now. Insidious Gaming Legends, this is what we were talking about. The pick and ban phase has been shaping up by quite a bit, and they know how to make use of these flex picks.
Very interesting. Wow. I'm quite sure that was the Braum locked in, even though it was just ticking down, but that will mean that we will see LY4 top side with the Morgana now. Of course, I don't think, you know, Morgana isn't all too unknown to our viewers.
Yeah.
It's kind of that AFK farm queen once you level up the
I mean,
Dark
we
Soil.
saw Morgana early on the GPL, Logitech G Fighters. Played that top
Yeah.
Morgana, everyone was like, what? Mind blown. And, you know, even now, this current patch, Morgana top, we're seeing how LY4 is so good at AP top lane. Teamfight champions, guess what? Morgana, Soul Shackles, does the job as well as Kennen.
Yeah, I want to toss this question over to you, though. Is IGL a little too pick dependent, though? It still seems like just rushing in there with a Sion and a Rek'Sai, you'll be so busy kind of dealing with those two that, you know, Lucian and maybe even Kennen, once he gets thrown in there, it's chaos.
The good thing is that Insidious Gaming Legends has drafted a great degree of disengage now pick up that Braum, so they don't only have to rely on this Morgana Soul Shackle slash Dark Binding. You can actually use the Glacial Fissure to kind of buy some space for your team and re-engage. Of course, multiple members are very mobile with the Nidalee as well as the LeBlanc. You can kite in and out of fights pretty well, and you leave Graves alone to just auto-attack and use Quick Draw and kite around as well. So not really tunneling too in on pick, but opening their composition up a bit more. I think I really like their drafting style coming in.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting. I think the latent, you know, a bit of the hidden mobility of IGL squad, where you're talking about, you know, Nidalee that can leap around, Graves that can dash, Braum as well. You know, 4 out of these 5 champions have little mechanical tricks to them that I think will make for some very, very intense team fight, you know, outplay potential. And that's something that IGL has been known for, right? Even as individuals or 2v2, 1v1, as a whole squad, they say, if you make a mistake, we're going to outplay you.
Yeah, the last
Just
point
like
about
that.
their composition that's really scary is they have a lot of line danger, line skill shot danger coming in from the whole team. You have bindings, javelins, quick buckshots, as well as the Winter's Bite coming in from Rapier. So if you line up or if you spread out and you get caught by one, chances are you're going to get caught by multiple. So I think Insidious Gaming Legends here might be looking to take that composition and run it for themselves as we kind of shift around the zeros a bit.
Wow, what is going on
Yeah,
right
not too
there?
sure.
All right, so it is zeros for everybody across the board, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, this is the second last day of Group Stage 2 for the GPL Spring Split, or rather, Spring Season. Yeah, Spring Season, Group Stage number 2. And it's going to be very, very important again. ASUS Fate looking to play the role of the upset squad here, denying IGL a place in the playoffs. Yeah. And they've certainly, you know, ASUS Fate have certainly picked a composition that is very, very interesting. I mean, Sion mid. We talk so much about IGL's composition and its quirks. My goodness, we have a Sion mid.
Well, we have seen Sion mid in LCK.
That's
At
right.
least Kuro played that together with a double banner of command, split pushing kind of style. Not too strange to us, but we're going to have to see how it plays out because as I understand, Sion against LeBlanc is a rather good matchup. The role of the Slayer helps you deal with the shoving coming in from LeBlanc, and you're tanky enough not to get taken down early on, so LeBlanc can't snowball as well.
Very, very true. This Sion pick is... We'll have to see. I mean, again, ASUS Fate, no. This is the mentality that they're entering this series with.
Yeah.
We already can't make it into playoffs. Our one objective here is to give IGL the toughest time possible and, you know, hopefully buy that playoff spot for our countrymen, our comrades. So I wonder, you know, IGL have to be ready that this kind of mentality will be thrown at them, not once but twice. They really, really want that 2-0.
So Fate coming in here with the lane swap. I kind of expected this because we were talking about how they're so good at managing their early game strategies and getting their own top laner hit while denying the enemy top laner.
Right.
This is what ASUS Fate really wants, because if Cannon does hit level 6 before Morgana, they have the immediate power spike they can use to take objectives around the map. So I like what the Vietnamese side is doing here. IGL has to respond really well, if not they're going to fall behind. So pause comes in.
Hopefully we'll get official word on what exactly the pause is all about. But yes, already we can talk a little bit on some of the early game strategies coming in. Lane swap. Kennen will be in the bottom against Graves and Braum. And, you know, Graves and Braum, with the Braum pick, we didn't get all too much time to talk about that in the draft phase due to it being the last pick. But it's definitely a kill lane right there, right? We've seen Rapier as well. I recall near the end of Group Stage 1, a few of the games that I myself cast, Rapier was roaming all over the map, you know, along with Hallelujah, who was on his Rek'Sai. But nevertheless, Nidalee and Braum can make a very, very deadly, you know, roaming pair. Hit a lane extremely hard. You've got crowd control in both top and mid with Morgana and LeBlanc. That person, you know, it's either a flash burn or just flat out dead.
Because of the Q slow coming from Braum as well as the auto attack passive, it's really easy to create gank opportunities around the map. So IGL has a very scary roaming support in the event of the lane swap. Mid lane Shady taking their Soul Furnace first. Interesting adaptation. Doesn't want to take too much damage from Rune. Replies with a skill of his own, and Rune's going to come out worse for wear. He went for the sustain route here, going for the Flask and the Biscuit, so no early Doran's Ring to find the kills, and Rune knows this matchup pretty well as well.
Alright, we should have a relatively slow laning phase. Just top laners trying to get as much CS as possible. Actually, Slay not even trying to get the CS, just wants the free XP. Doesn't want to alert Rapier and Valkyrie. Because the moment he shows Rapier, you know, we'll move past the minion wave and then zone him away. It's actually a little bit, it's quite clever actually by him. But Rapier, you have to wonder, why is he even sitting in that bush?
If you take a look at the wave though, it is pushing towards Slay, and had IGL known Slay was in the wave, they would have set up the freeze. They think that Slay is doing the double jungle with Miu now, which is why they're shoving it up. And once he shows, the wave is just going to go to him under turret, and Cannon has an amazing time CSing under turret, especially at level 2.
Yeah, I have to wonder what exactly Rapier was sitting in the bush for. Maybe thinking that in terms of the jungle pathing, there'd be a bit of a visit from Miu, and but that doesn't work, right? Or that's not the case when you're talking about double jungle anyway. So a little bit of an early game mistake there from IGL. Kennen is going to be very, very happy, you know, CSing under his tower. Already jumping up to, well, it's only 10, but it's still double, guys. It's still double that of Morgana's, alright?
Once again, this is Fate showing us their mastery of the early game and the lane swap mind games as well. Rek'Sai gonna go on the bottom side, take the Krugs, and the moment I think IGL freezes the wave, it should be the Rek'Sai coming in to break that freeze. However, Hallelujah will get spotted out with the Javelin being tossed. Will not find anything though. A dive coming in onto Slay. Very ill-advised, I think, especially the fact that Miu is around.
I'm excited to see Hallelujah on this Nidalee as well.
Yeah.
Very much skill shot dependent, just like Lee Sin, one of his favorite or most prolific jungle champions. In the mid lane, seems like Rune is managing to hold his own against this rather unconventional Sion pick, but we can see that Sion really isn't all too phased by, you know, unlike some other mid laners. If you get hit by the Sigil of Malice and then its distortion, it's like, half HP already. Sion's just like, what just happened?
He would just probably roar back at you and use the Decimating Smash to put some damage back to thank you for your efforts.
That's right.
Bot lane freeze once again being put up by IGL, and I think a bit of a misplay here to not have Miu going down there to push it up and break the freeze for Slay, of course. As a ranged champion, Cannon can still farm pretty well, so keeping even at least, whereas LY4 surging a bit higher in CS.
Yeah, it should go a little bit back and forth just due to the way that the wave's been pushing. Once Rapier as well as Valkyrie have a bit more knowledge onto, you know, Rek'Sai's movement patterns, for example, the fact that they just saw him, you know, backing away from bottom about 40 seconds ago. Yeah, you can see that they're willing to push past the wave and be a bit more aggressive with their posturing. Nevertheless, LY4 on Morgana with his Tormented Soil has been finding a decent amount of CS on his own. So thankfully, in that case,
AFK farm,
yeah.
pretty strong.
IGL's AFK farm has managed to even up the top lanes so far.
Being a bit tricky here, it goes the long way around to use the Tormented Soul.
Doesn't get any of them.
But what it does do is that it frees up the wave to push into the turret and resets in his favor.
Yeah.
So at least he will get the next 2 waves, I believe, once it comes up. And also does free up a lot of space for Hallelujah to go in deep in the jungle because the waves are pushed up and LY4 can reply. Mid, just a wet noodle fight, which is not something we always say, but has been devolving to that quite a bit.
Ooh, Hallelujah actually coming to the top right here. It looks like they managed to get a good amount of damage down, but not even the flash burn, just the exhaust and the... Oh, that's big
Oh my goodness.
Fantastic flash away from Akiko. Listener now with a bit more aggression on his side. Going for it, doesn't have vision. My goodness, Hallelujah. Escaping by the skin of his teeth due to the fact that there was no vision for Listener to hit that last auto attack.
Yeah, honestly, just a sort of a misplay coming from ASUS Fate there. Sticking around way too long, Akio got chunked out and Hallelujah once more. Blood though. Listener still pretty topped off. Has used the heal to keep his support safe, so I think ASUS Fate on the back foot here now in the top lane.
Very, very aggressive stuff coming in from Listener. Really almost punished Hallelujah right there for... Ooh, actually Rune getting very, very low here. There's a bit more damage coming out from Shady. Popping the passive, going for it, but he should have expected that distortion there. It comes back in with the chain, fantastic. That is going to be first blood. Rune making it look easy right there. Shady, a little too aggressive with his ultimate right there. Should have known that the double distortion was available.
Yeah, very good. Early ganks by Hallelujah here, emphasizing the map pressure that Nidalee is so famous for in this patch. As compared to the tank junglers now, with the early lead, it will be Rune starting his snowball slightly quicker, of course, going for that Durant's ring and amplifying 2, which he did not pick up early on. And what I want to say now is that because of how the early game went over to IGL, ASUS Fate very uncharacteristically playing aggressively, they've fallen behind by ever so slightly now.
Yeah, it's a little less than 1,000 gold lead, but I think especially when you burn your flash, for example, again, I was saying how they managed to deflect the aggression of IGL so well.
Yeah.
Really not even having to burn a single flash. But then it, you know, maybe a little bit too much blood to the head. I really want that kill. They burned all the summoners on the side of Listener. With the first blood on Rune, if he manages to push out the wave, it could very easily be a roam top. You know, one binding after Lucian uses his dash. And, you know, the snowball continues, right?
And the scary thing is he is at level 7, whereas no summoner spells available for the top lane. If they break that freeze being set up by Listener as well as Akiho, they could set up a very potent gank with Rune as well as Hallelujah roaming up. Now Rapier starting his roam as you mentioned early on. One of the pioneer roaming supports in the Singaporean scene at least.
Don't think anything will come of this. Not enough follow-up available to ASUS Fate.
Yeah. Job was done though, he managed to get the ward down and blue buff will be handed over to Rune in the jungle. Or excuse me, in the mid lane.
Valkyrie going a little bit aggressively in Slay right there. Oh, flashing in Slay. Totally disrespecting the amount of burst that can come out from Valkyrie with his ultimate as well as the BF sword. What is going on? ASUS Fate, you know, uncharacteristic of them to really make these kind of errors in the lanes, but that is definitely going to lead to the dragon. And just honestly, sloppy play in the lanes from ASUS Fate.
We see if ASF can come in to get the steal down the tunnel. Has been used by Mioi. He wants to get the smite, but to reset it out. Akiho coming in. The Slay teleport from the back. Cannon is level 6. Vengeful Maelstrom. Slicing Maelstrom coming in. Valkyrie gets caught up in the back. It is Shady who is dealing so much damage in the front. Once again, the chains will connect onto Slay Akiho. Trying the best to deal it out onto Rune, but he flashes away Valkyrie. The next one in trouble now. Will proc the stun and one more auto attack and manages to get away from Shady. Tidal Wave will not connect onto the Graves and he will escape scot-free after that fight. At the end it was a 2-4-1 onto ASUS Fate. Dragon not taken by IGL.
You have to wonder right there, Hungry Kid, where was LY4? Slay had been taken down. I mean, yes, death timers are short, but he manages to teleport in before LY4. And obviously in the Dragon Pit, you know, that small enclosed area, that's fantastic for the Slicing Maelstrom. LY4 now might have something to say, but it's 4 versus 1. At most, he can try and delay. Gets maybe the lockdown on 2 members. There is the double distortion in from Rune. Flashing away from Miyu, but the chains have hit, locking him down for now. There's the binding. That should be Miyu going down, no problem whatsoever. But ASUS Fate capitalizing on honestly a very, very late TP from LY4.
Yeah, in the midst of all that, Listener did get the turret, and that's gonna accelerate the item spikes that ASUS Fate will get from the ambient goal that you get from destroying turrets now. The scary thing is once Zhonya's Hourglass is hit by Slay and tank items are completed on Shady, well, that's a rather scary formula that you have for a team fight.
The 2 kills onto Sion I think are not all too impactful just yet. I think the 3 kills onto Rune are slightly more scary honestly for ASUS Fate, because if you look at it, Rek'Sai isn't at that point where, you know, he can eat a lot of damage, a lot of crowd control. Sion isn't. Sion is rather, but you still have, you know, so 4 members, basically anybody besides Sion that you can pick and blow up with this 3-0 LeBlanc at, you know, less than 12 minutes in. And for the mistakes that IGL made, you know, in the Dragon Pit as a team, overall you have to say there's been some key mistakes from ASUS Fate's members, even in the lane. Slay getting solo killed, Listener going way too aggressive in the top side, burning his summoners, and Shady, you know, in the mid lane as well with his very questionable ultimate with the double distortion available to Rune. And that's given IGL not so much of a gold lead, but the fact that their mid game will be very scary, right? You talk about how they use these Graves. They have the LeBlanc power now for them available too.
The team as a whole, IGL, when they get Graves LeBlanc or say Graves Ari, the moment they hit the mid game, they've taken down enough turrets, they will find picks and they will destroy you with their immediate spike in damage. Of course, the next Dragon won't be up anytime soon, but you can see across the map just turrets getting shoved in very heavily by IGL, and the roams will come in to reply. In the top lane, Hallelujah might find Shady out here. Valkyrie going to go into the lane and check him out, and it's Nidalee whose spears connect to Shady. The pounce as well, the full combination barely nicking his health.
No damage, bro.
Yeah.
No damage whatsoever. Those 2 kills definitely giving Sion a little bit more of a... Ooh, right. So, Rune manages to take out Slay. That is, once again, Slay getting solo killed. Can't quite blame him though. Again, this LeBlanc with 3-0-0 is just doing work for IGL at the moment. Listener taking a little bit of poke right here. But overall, this LeBlanc is going to be big problems for ASUS Fate. They don't quite have a way to control her unless it's a full team fight, you know, where you have knockups, bubbles, Rek'Sai on burrows, cannon stuns, but one-on-one, really anybody except for Sion is her food.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I've been having this debate with J-Storm about how you should just ban out the LeBlanc from Rune. Don't deal with it because it poses so much problems to a composition irregardless of your strategy. This player is so good on that champion that he will constantly find kills around the map and make your life a living hell.
Very, very true. And when you're talking about, you know, some other staples, we'll hold that thought because here comes Rapier. Now, obviously with the Braum passive, it'll be a little bit easier to deal with Sion, but he'll just pop his ultimate, say, I don't even want to deal with this, back off very, very easily. And the map pressure that Rune has been able to exert in the bottom side will mean that that tier 1 and bottom, it's only a matter of time before, you know, Slay gets solo killed again. You can see how far back he's playing due to the fact that ASUS Fate had very, very little forward vision of their own.
Needlessly large rod now onto Rune, and
yeah, oh man.
That is rather scary once he finishes up his death cap or even Zhonya's Hourglass. If he can get into the backline and assassinate Listener, ASUS Fate has 0 damage as a composition because they rely a lot on this Lucian, to be the carry in terms of mid to late game damage. Hasn't even completed the Infinity Edge yet.
That's right, and we did see, as predicted, with Rune establishing his dominance in the bottom side. That tower has gone down, so IGL should be able to just focus their efforts now in the mid side. Abyssal Scepter picked up by LY4 as well, so this LeBlanc is going to be absolutely massive if LY4 can get himself into the middle of the team fight. Has his flash available, wouldn't be too surprised. Dragon coming up in a minute and a half. We see a flash, Soul Shackle, burn some more flashes, and then Rune just goes to town on
If you're a ASUS Fate at this point in time in the game, you press tab, you see the items being completed, hold on Rune, going for some damage. But if you see the items being completed on IGL and the Dragon timer coming up so soon, you just decide not to group and don't contest that Dragon because you're gonna lose and you're gonna die.
Yeah, they really need to find another way to make an impact on the map other than that team fight at this moment. Maybe pushing up bottom, but once again, ASUS Fate have minimal vision, you know, around the map. Very, very little forward vision for them, just making it difficult for them to push. LY4 with his AFK Farm Queen champion Morgana has more than once now denied a push onto the mid tier 1. And you have to wonder, what exactly is ASUS Fate's plan right now? The early game for them looked a little bit shaky, but that is traditionally where their strength is. Now as we shift more into the meat of the mid game, you know, we've seen both Lisna as well as Akiho sit in middle and not really do anything, right? Maybe they're still stalling for time to get that Infinity Edge that is sitting on Valkyrie now, but they really need to make some plays, I have to feel, because at the Dragon Pit, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, if they take down Slay, should be the ghost signal for IGL to move forward for this dragon, but instead, not gonna find his kill there. 10 seconds on the respawn. Slay once again getting chunked up very heavily by Rune. Uses the double distortion, I believe, to get the damage down. And ASUS Fate can't really reply because if they siege up the bottom side, it's gonna be a collapse from IGL here. And Insidious Gaming Legends have the key to start this Baron. It has been activated, and LY4 is there with the Soul Shackles and the Abyssal Scepter. They want the Speed Shrine first though, which is a very smart choice. Allows them to kite in and out, land the skill shots that they need. ASUS Fate deciding not to contest this, goes over to the bottom side, or maybe they want this, they're walking over.
Mio as well as Akiho. Mio goes in for it, doesn't manage to get the smite. There's the TP coming in now from Slay. Is it too late? LY4 there for the Soul Shackles. Valkyrie with fantastic positioning, but Slay comes in with his flash ultimate. Now at the side, we see Lisna coming in. IGL do manage to get the dragon. Was close right there, a smite contest practically. And overall, the team fight explosion that we were expecting from both LY4 and Rune working together with their magic burst wasn't quite there. I think, you know, Slay being able to back to base, heal back up, and then TP back in. It's similar to the situation of Dragon number 1. Slay is... It looked like IGL was saying, okay, we can't allow that same situation for Slay to TP in like that. They get him down to half HP, but it seems like Rune wasn't quite, you know, decisive enough. Do I stay up there and keep him pinned under his tower? Or do I just move and join my team quickly? And it was a half-half kind of thing. That allows Slay to come back in. Mind you, even without his Zhonya's, just flash and zone everybody away with his ultimate. So, you know, a very tenuous position right now for IGL, and it's reflected in the gold score as well. They managed to get the dragon, which honestly was just a smite contest. But the tower now goes over to ASUS Fate.
Mio uses the Void Rush to get the heck out of dodge. Doesn't want to do too much in the bottom side now with the turret down. And the issue with that last fight as well was that Rune wasn't arriving anytime sooner than Slay. And normally in this team fights, you want to find the poke down first and then hard engage, or at least peel back with your composition well. If you don't land the javelins or the double sigils of Malice, there's no damage there. You have to do something like that before the dragon spawns in order to give your team the advantage, which is not something IGL has been doing these fights.
Yeah, and something else that is very fortunate for ASUS Fate is that even though we criticize them for having, you know, very minimal forward warding, they did enough warding around the Dragon Pit to realize that, especially, you know, with Rune topside, say, hey, we're actually getting a free pass into this dragon. We saw, you know, Miyu as well as Akiho being able to just kind of walk their way into the Dragon Pit due to the fact that Rune was topside. You know, Rune really, as well as IGL as a whole, need to decide to commit to one course of action.
We can't forget that a lot of the gold from IGL is stacked on this LeBlanc. So if he's not in the fight, that's a lot of gold that they're missing out on. And just 1,000 gold behind is ASUS Fate now. Excuse me, Insidious Gaming Legends now. So they are playing on the back foot.
Yeah, not all too, you know, game-changing in terms of the gold totals. But again, it's worrying due to the fact that, you know, like you said, there's so much power onto Rune that I think indecisiveness and not having him contribute to the mid-game that IGL has played fantastically well in previous series, you know, is something to be aware of. Again, we talk about how hungry IGL should be, and we believe is for this 2-0, but currently their play, you know, isn't quite reflecting that just yet.
Leaving a lot to be desired here. The Singapore side has to up their game by quite a bit if they want to contest this first game away from ASUS Fate. But right now it is just about even, as it were, the death cap onto Rune. A big spike in damage. This should be the signal for IGL at least to move more aggressively into the jungle and find picks as a team. Of course, the jungle will be where they contest majority of the vision and where they will flourish the best.
Yeah, now we're seeing one of the weaknesses of the IGL's composition right here, which is unless they land some poke like that Nidalee Spear or a LeBlanc Burst, they really don't have any options for engage. I mean, yes, maybe they can go for, you know, a very, very low percentage Braum ultimate, but that really will be more off the back of, say, aggression from ASUS Fate, and then a bit of a turn. Other than that, it is actually very, very difficult, unless you're talking about a binding hitting or significant poke, for IGL to actually make their ways onto the ASUS Fate squad and their objectives.
This is a window for IGL here. All of the wave clear from ASUS Fate has been used up. And without the cannon or Scion, the BM coming from
man, that is good stuff.
He's so tanky, he doesn't care.
Zion's got some of the most annoying VM in the game, right? He's got that massive axe that just defies physics as it spins onto the ground, around. I don't even know, man. It's just ridiculous VM. But like you said, this is an important window for IGL. The wave clear is definitely slightly lower now that Listener's ultimate has been used. But again, it's so difficult for IGL to walk towards the towers. They don't have that true tank or somebody with significant zone powers as compared to like a Scion. Maybe Braum once he gets, you know, a few more items, but you can tell that IGL, respecting the fact that something like a Tidal Wave, a Flash Unburrow from Rek'Sai, for example, if you get too close to the tower, could really, really turn things onto their head very, very quickly.
And IGL has to accelerate the pace of this game because very soon, Cannon is going to be able to scale into that Zhonya's Hourglass. Shady as Scion will be nigh unkillable, and Listener on this Lucian, I have to say that this new player on ASUS Fate has been the primary carry in their victories the previous week. He's been doing so well in keeping relative in CS and always bringing the late game damage. So IGL, if they can't pick him off in the late game and he does scale up, Listener is going to be one big problem for IGL.
Definitely does feel that IGL are playing with ticking time bombs somewhat. As well, okay. So you see, that needs to happen, right? Akio. Well, I mean, and that needs to happen for IGL. That can't happen for ASUS Fate because look at this. Dragon timing in 1 second. There you go, the spawn hitting just about now. And that's what happens when you have, you know, your 4-0 LeBlanc in the area. Again, ASUS Fate, IGL needs to be catching on to this. They really don't have forward vision. If you can clear the vision with your sweeping lens, with your pink ward, you're going to have such a chokehold over them, right?
ASUS Fate replying really well, tunneling on the mid turret. Shady's just going to tank it up. He's so huge right now, but they have to back off because IGL coming over with the threat and two-man Dragon being started, whereas in the mid lane 3v3 going down, IGL deciding to back off. Instead, Rune coming in with the big damage onto Listener will not be able to take him down. The next one to fall, not anyone yet. The chain's connecting onto Shady just for a bit of immobility, but both teams just staring each other off and backing off. The advantage, of course, going over to IGL with the Dragon take. ASUS Fate had good moves in mind, but couldn't execute it properly. The idea was solid there, knowing 4v5 should not be the Dragon contest and going to the mid lane.
Ooh, Rune actually from the side over here, getting a good amount of damage on the Slay. Don't think that he will be forced to back off as long as Nami has her sustain going for him. LY4 back in the top side has his teleport should any kind of action break out in the mid side. But again, very, very good from IGL this time around, approaching the Dragon saying, alright, you know what? We can find the pick. Yeah, we can find the picks, and then there was a good reaction by them too. But from both sides actually, ASUS Fate says, yeah, you know what? We don't want to go into the Dragon 5v4. Let's see what we can do with the mid tower. IGL very, very calm and collected with their response, getting back there in time to defend it. So overall, it looks like the mid game shaping up a bit more for both teams. Still a very, very close game we have on our hands, folks. Less than 1,000 gold lead. Dragons within 1 apiece. Towers within 1 apiece. And other than the LeBlanc, everyone else is quite evenly matched up. Although I have to give the scaling over to the team that has the Cannon as well as the Scion. So IGL, good to see them making those moves, getting that Dragon. And still trying to find their way onto this mid-tier one.
It's not just the Cannon and Scion that helps ASUS Fate scale. It's the fact that IGL, so far, is now at about 550 extra health, and that's pretty sick.
Yikes.
Free stats, always good. But yeah, as IGL's composition is triple AP coming from Morgana, Nidalee, and LeBlanc. So easy to itemize, and at this point, ASUS Fate should be starting to build into the lockets. Even the Banner of Command, which gives a good deal of magic resistance, should be picked up here from the Vietnamese side and allow them to maneuver the map slightly better. Of course, the waves being utilized very well here. This is something they're so good at. Early game manipulation of strategies and wave control.
Yeah, and another thing about the Scion top is just the fact that, or Scion top, what am I talking about? Scion mid against the triple AP. Who plays Scion top? It's all Scion mid nowadays. The triple AP is that you don't really have somebody that can deal with the split push of Scion. I mean, Scion naturally scales, you know, fantastically into the late game with the free stats which we're talking about. As Lista gets locked down here, has to flash away. A lot of aggression coming in from that 5-0 LeBlanc. A nice ultimate from Rapier, denying Slay entry onto Valkyrie's AD carry, but my goodness, that was close, and both teams a little bit antsy. This is what I was talking about. You really can't afford to take on Scion with, you know, AP. You need a bit more of a duelist in your pocket. Slay getting extremely low right here. I do have to wonder, Slay out of mana, no more ultimate. It's going to take a while, but I have to imagine Rune will be able to take him down, especially with the help of Hallelujah.
Oh, Shady flashes away though. With the blue buff, Rune could probably take him down.
Okay, very, very close right there. They do need to back away from there. There's the heal. Do think the chain and the distortion should be enough to deny Shady.
Yeah, but meanwhile they managed to pick up Lisna in the mid lane. I believe it was the combined efforts of the IGL squad that allowed them to take out the Lucian, and now this is the siege that IGL wants. No more wave clear coming from ASUS Fate. Apart from Slay joining in, now it should be the turret going down and the mid as well as the top lane. A lot of gold going over to the Singapore side.
Yeah, so much of that series of events really was off the fact that Rune was able to chunk out Listener. And Slay as well, you know, a little bit over-aggressive with his slicing Maelstrom right there. Yes, there are no objectives to contest, so you can't fault him for trying to, you know, TP in and use his ultimate, but on one member, and on top of that with the Braum still there to peel him off, I mean, he doesn't have the damage, and there wasn't a follow-up available from ASUS Fate with Listener chunked down. So ASUS Fate, you know, we said, they look good early game, but in the mid game, they tend to just, you know, fall apart a little bit. We're seeing signs of that. Meanwhile, IGL, you know, had a bit of a shaky moment before, but it seems to only be getting better from here.
You can't help but say that experience definitely playing a big part in this matchup, because IGL, they know when to cut their losses sometimes and back off, whereas ASUS Fate, the moment Listener got chunked out, they kind of panicked and got a bit frightened and returned with full out aggression, using the teleport by Slay to kind of counter-engage for his team. And in a more experienced scenario, that's not what you always want to do. Slay gonna get caught out here.
Man. Oh, okay. Listener with some aggression of his own though. There is the shutdown coming in. Overly aggressive perhaps by Rune, you have to say. Had his ignite up actually, maybe thought that it was not necessary, or perhaps it just came off cooldown.
Too sure why he's been using double distortion to assassinate people. Normally use that for mobility. Double Sigil of Malice is what you normally go for if you're going for assassination, so Rune not particularly sure what the logic behind that is, but the stun will proc onto Shady, buying some time for his team to put down some damage. Valkyrie with the Black Shield will not get knocked out. Winner's Bite just sailing past Shady once more, and Listener left unchecked in the back, still dealing tons of damage out. However, tries to find another binding, and Listener just dodges away from the Javelin. Both teams teetering on the line here. One team is going to come out and hit very soon. Miyu in the bot lane, split pushing. Void Rush available. This should be turret unless a response from IGL comes in.
Definitely, we're seeing the... Oh, chain's not going to hit right there. We're seeing the very micro-intensive team fights coming in from both teams. I mean, it's a lot of skill shots that have to land, and you can see it's micro-intensive really on the champions where it counts. We're seeing both Listener as well as Valkyrie using their dashes very, very precisely. Shady himself doesn't care, but even the likes of Slay, you know, he doesn't want to get locked down. He wants to have that free into the IGL squad with his Lightning Rush and then the Slicing Maelstrom. Dragon is live right now, and this is tricky. We said it before, IGL really needs to land some meaningful poke.
Yeah.
It's no longer that power spike they had with the Abyssal Scepter and the LeBlanc power. Now the tables have turned somewhat.
Oh, IGL has a flank onto ASUS Fate here. They don't know. Slay got poked down quite a bit there. Rune coming in from the side will find the ward out and clear that. ASUS Fate getting strangled out of position. IGL with the front line moving forward very aggressively. They could rotate to the mid lane and push down the turrets if they want. They have the positional advantage here. Dragon started by ASUS Fate.
ASUS Fate really just have to take this dragon, but it looks like LY4 actually is thinking of engaging Shady with quite a questionable engage right there, but they managed to catch two. Valkyrie still in good position though. LY4 with a fantastic ultimate, but he gets shredded, absolutely blown up. Meanwhile, Slay has found Rune. There's the ignite to take him down. IGL surging forward now. Shady is all alone. Looks like splitting up not the best idea for ASUS Fate. Their backline exposed to that 7-1 and 2 LeBlanc. Managing to take down Listener while Valkyrie himself was untouched at the back.
Yeah, great movements here in response as well. 2 members at Dragon and 2 in the mid lane to shove up the waves to control that IGL LY4. The MVP of that fight flashing in with the great soul shackles, as you pointed out, causing the backline of ASUS Fate to go into chaos, and they couldn't find a focus target when everyone was locked up. Valkyrie as well in the backline left completely untouched to just clean up, and he was able to output so much damage with the collateral damage itself.
The danger right now or rather I think the Achilles heel of ASUS Fate we're seeing is, even though they have such a solid composition, they don't quite team fight very cohesively, right? We saw the Nami ultimate being used very haphazardly. The Sion ultimate, once again, quite haphazard. And then Rek'Sai flash ulting, but guess what? Your backline, you know, if you've just used all those ultimates, you need to be aware. Assassins are good, you know, their eyes are gonna light up. The Nami wave is down, the Sion ultimate is down. Rek'Sai just flashed.
Yeah, that's a great point there. ASUS Fate really team fighting rather poorly. What they make up for in terms of map control, they lose in what they make up for in terms of early game rotations, they lose in terms of team fighting, and I have to feel like that's because of the roster just going all switcheroo at multiple points in time. Shady, of course, used to be a top laner. It was Imba at one point in time in mid lane, so ASUS Fate just kind of playing around with the roster, not really coming out too far ahead. Rune might want to find Listener here, taunt him, it jukes back to the distortion. IGL having a bit of fun now, but this is when it gets a bit more dangerous because vision's starting to die across the map, and if IGL wants to get the deep vision down, they're going to have to fight their way through for it.
That's right. So the first meaningful gap created from IGL in this game, the 2 dragons, that movement speed buff that will be so important for them to kite around these fights. A 3,000 gold lead. ASUS Fate have done a good job getting objectives of their own. Oh, but there you go. Damage coming in from Rune, and you have to say, so much of the mid game, you know, as now we move into the late game, is really off the back of Rune's assassinations. Akiho, Listener, even Slay, even though he has his Zhonya's now. All of these are so vulnerable to the assassination coming in from a 7-1-2 LeBlanc.
This might sound strange, but I think Rune at this point should just get Liandry's Torment to deal with the tankiness coming from Shady. The percentage damage gonna help way more than further AP, so itemization wise, Rune has to kind of go off the walls a bit more, but it should help in terms of magic penetration as well.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I don't think Slay will be caught right here.
Oh boy.
Oh, he actually flinched. Oh, but he doesn't know. He does not know. What? He just showed. He just showed.
Oh my goodness. You're gonna feel a bit foolish after that one, not realizing a cannon was there, but the reply coming from Rune, they know the cannon is topside. He has teleport as well. Scrying up will spot out Shady as well as Listener. Rune, LY4 Valkyrie coming in for the collapse. The Dark Binding connects to Shady, but that's not the tank you want. Hallelujah. With the Javelin to scare members of ASUS Fate off, and they have the positional advantage here. 4 members in the mid lane. Wave has been cleared out. Bot lane though, Miyu is still pushing against that turret, and LY4 will be the one to respond. Going very low. Will he be able to pick it up? The Void Rush available for him to escape. About a third of its health left at tier 2 bottom lane turret. So
ASUS Fate looks like their contingency plan, now that IGL are looking very strong in the team fight, is let's just not team fight. Nah, he wasn't getting away from that one, not at all. The contingency plan is let's just, you know, let's just split push. Let's just hit the lanes as hard as we can in terms of, you know, pushing up the waves. But overall, I don't think that'll be a strategy that works all too well for them. A bit of a wasted TP right here. Good ultimate from Rapier to slow down the air and retreat. And right now, Listener just gets exploded by Valkyrie's burst. Here comes Rune for the follow-up. And my goodness, Valkyrie just absolutely exploding Listener's face right there. 4-0 and 6, 8-1 and 3. The amount of burst that these 2 champions can bring up for IGL is absolutely insane.
Yeah, this should be Baron for IGL. I don't think any defense can come in from ASUS Fate despite having Milieu available. No tunnels around the area means no Void Rush, and Rapier, as a very tanky supporter he is, will be able to soak all of that up while Hallelujah and Valkyrie does damage. Milieu tries to find Rune, but he might get blown up here. Wants to get the turret, this LeBlanc gets stunned and knocked up, has to run away with the distortion. Gonna be safe after that one, and I think IGL starting to get a grasp of their power spike, making use of it very well. We told them to be more aggressive. We were saying how as a team they have to move forward and stop the scaling coming in from ASUS Fate. Just find the assassinations, and that's what they have been doing really well.
Yeah, so the really fascinating thing about, you know, Assassins and League of Legends and how exactly they can turn a competition on its head is we talk about how little engage IGL really has, and if ASUS Fate runs at them, you know, that's such a clear strength that ASUS Fate wins out on. But with Assassins and a lot of bursts coming in from both Graves as well as LeBlanc, you throw this huge question mark at the enemy team, which is, are you willing to commit to, you know, a full-on engage, commit all your CC to try and, you know, create a lot of chaos and take down one of my members?
Yeah.
And if you aren't successful, hey, my Assassin, my Graves, my LeBlanc are just gonna get a free pass at your back line. Is it worth it? And ASUS Fate, you know, we haven't seen them have that kind of confidence to really make the right choice right here.
Shady will channel a Decimating Smash to get a bit of return damage, but Rune is the point man here.
Yikes.
For IGL. So scary. Double Sigil of Malice is going to give you a bad day. And Listener has to be very careful. No magic resistance. Excuse me, has picked up the Spectre's Cow response, so be able to soak and mitigate a bit of that, but nonetheless, IGL unfazed here, taking the inhibitor turret as well as the inhibitor. Will ASUS Fate coming for the defense in the top side? It is Slay who is still split pushing. Will he get that down? Though Nexus turrets being converged here.
They're going for the end right here. You have to wonder whether Slay or not comes back. He's done a good job so far bringing the creeps all the way to the inhibitor turret, but inhibitors aren't what IGL's interested in. They want the Nexus. So far, the meat shields of Shady as well as Milieu have done a good job denying more of an approach towards the towers. There's the ultimate coming up for Listener. It's full wave clear mode. Rune comes in from the side, doesn't manage to find the assassination.
Oh, the first Nexus turret goes down.
First Nexus turret though. Looks like it's gonna be very close right here. Slay actually has to be called back. Rune finding a good chain. Slay has come back, so it looks like it's full defense mode now. Slay entering the fight, flashing in, finding 4 members of IGL. They all back away. There's the Zonya's pop from him as well. Rapier in the front line. There's the return damage though from the collateral damage. It is absolutely massive. All the members of ASUS Fate blinking low. This should be the final push they need. They need to retreat back to the tower. Listener cannot afford to hold this on his own. He gets chunked low. There's the damage coming in from Valkyrie. There's the exhaust though. Slay re-engaging. Black Shield keeps him healthy.
Oh, they're going for the Nexus. One more auto attack will give them the game. IGL gets the first game of the series to secure at least a tiebreaker for themselves, and very well played. A close finish coming in from the Singaporean side. They stacked up their aggression. They got the picks that they want, the very comfortable champions, and that was them just showing ASUS Fate who's boss.
That's right. You know, they sensed the hesitance coming in from ASUS Fate. The moment where their assassination got so strong and ASUS Fate started to question themselves, saying, can we really engage on this? That was kind of the storyline, which is, you're not going to engage, we're going to keep going. Got your inhibitor? Oh, you still don't want to engage. All right, we'll go for one Nexus turret. Ah, you're calling back your cannon now. It's too late.
Yeah.
It's way too late.
I feel like at the point where Rune just managed to assassinate a keyhole, like a spark went off his head and said, this is when we can start winning the game. And honestly, very dominating performance there. ASUS Fate will be coming in the next game, looking to take at least a point away and force the tiebreaker to help their countrymen Saigon Jokers as well as Saigon Fantastic 5.
That's right, folks. So there's still the chance for ASUS Fate to play the upset row. We'll be coming back after a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back just after this short break.